My name's McGregor, and I'm a product specialist for Akai Professional, talking with Skratchworx. And we're standing in front of the new Akai Professional APC40. Stands for Ableton Performance Controller. The 40 comes from our 8x5 grid inside this rectangle, which corresponds to this 8x5 grid red rectangle on the screen. Anything that's inside of this rectangle will show up on the face of the interface, and it even shows you with tricolor LEDs which tracks you have loaded with clips, which ones are empty, if it's loaded and playing, or it's even bright red if you're armed and ready to record. Essentially, you can trigger individual clips by just triggering any one of the pads on here. You can launch an entire scene on the right hand side, and that'll trigger the entire row or your entire scene. You can stop individual clips with the stop cues at the bottom, or you also have a stop all clips function. Now below that, you've got your track selection. On the screen, if I actually want to see any detailed information, I can pick my different tracks, and it'll cycle me through my different WAV files that I have available for those clips. Now up top on the controller, I've got my track control here. I've got 8 knobs for my 8 tracks, and I can control my pans, my sends, A, B, and C. One thing I need to point out, all this updating on the interface is done with our proprietary bidirectional protocol. So we're sending MIDI data into the computer, it's updating the screen so you see a knob turn on the screen, but it's also receiving MIDI data that's updating all our LEDs. So my LEDs here, if I hard pan all the way to the right on track 1, you can see it on the screen, and you also get the feedback on the face of the controller. That way you don't have to always look up at the computer to actually see what's going on, and that stays set. So if I go over to my sends and anywhere else and then come back, my pan is still ready to go on that track, still panned all the way to the right. Below that, I have tap tempo and nudge, and this is how I move my red rectangle around the screen. There's actually 3 methods for doing this. You can go individually up and down by 1. I can hold down shift and press up or down, and that'll shift the red rectangle down or up by 5 increments, or if I go left or right, it shifts it by increments of 8. Again, it's a 5x8 grid. The final method, if I hold down shift, notice my pads light up. This is actually indicating to me on the screen I have a 5x8 clip here, 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 or here, and then also a new set of 5x8. So I can actually punch this, and let me get a screenshot here, I'll show you what I'm doing. Notice the red rectangle's down here. I'm still holding down shift. I'm now going to touch the top left button, and that'll jump me up to the top bank of 8x5, or down to the second one, the third one, the fourth one, or even over and up to the top one, down, and so forth. My device control is down here. So now if I have a track that actually has some effects on it, I have all my knobs right here. And an important feature to note is this. Everything's auto-mapped on this unit. You don't have to do any mapping, and you have 8 knobs here, but you have 8 banks. So if I hold down shift, I've got red 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Down here in bank 8, I may not have 64 knobs that I need to assign to my simple delay, so I can assign if I want to use any of my, oh my gosh, if I want to use any one of my macros, I can hard assign these guys to that. You have 64 knobs for every single device. If I go to my master output, I can actually call up, maybe I'd have multiple units. So let me see if I can do something really quick on the screen. Alright, on my screen now, I've got 2 different effects going on. When I have multiple effects, I can use my left-right arrow on the actual interface here. And I can cycle back and forth between the 2 units. I can turn one off or on with the device on-off switch. So here's my device on-off switch, and here's my right-left arrows. So I can cycle back and forth, and each one of these devices gets 64 knobs. Below that, I've got my detailed view. What this is going to do is on the screen, I can actually see my details at the bottom, like the WAV file for the clip or my effects. Or I can punch this button, it drops it down, and now I just get a full view of all my clips. I can call it back up instantly by pressing the detail view button again. Next to those guys, I've got record quantization, MIDI overdub, and metronome for if you're using any keyboards or any audio inputs and you want to record in, your play, stop, record, and you also have an assignable crossfader. Any tracks can be assigned to A or B, and now I can set it up basically mixer style to where, for instance, track 1 and track 2, one's on A, one's on B. I can assign multiple tracks to B or A in live, and I can crossfade back and forth between these guys. Finally, we have volume controls for all 8 of our tracks. We have a master volume control, a cue control, and above these guys you have your record arm, your solo cue, and then your activators, which are essentially your mute buttons for all of your tracks. And that completes the APC40. Again, this is brand new from Akai Professional. This is the only controller that's endorsed both by Akai Professional and Ableton. To prove it, we actually have the Ableton logo on the face of this. This is the stamp of approval from Ableton that this is their controller. This also ships with our own version. It's called the Akai APC40 edition of Ableton Live. It's not a light edition. It basically gives you more featured or more clips and scene selection as well as more effects selection. If you are a full Ableton user, when you do the install disc will actually recognize you have a full version, and it'll update your entire full version to work seamlessly with our controller. Again, the APC40, talking with Skratchworx here at Winter NAMM 2009. My name's McGregor, and this is Akai Professional and the APC40.